Нет, сука, уже просрочен твой контракт. Быстро, блядь, приезжай сюда с моими бабками. No, don't stop at Constantia Village. That's for people that live in Plumstead. Go up more. High Constantia. Yeah. Is someone gonna fucking open the door? I hate these flippin' recycled paper lids. They always fall apart. Always got that soggy stuff in your mouth as you're drinking a coffee. What happened to hard plastic? Does this car not have rear seat cooling? Oh, come on. Let's close these window blinds for a bit of privacy. And my own personal sunroof in the rear of this S-Class. The S-Class was, and always will be, the benchmark luxury saloon or sedan. Full size, plenty of space. All the latest, best, newest tech would debut from Mercedes-Benz with each new release of the latest generation S-Class. This is a W222 that we have in stock that I couldn't pass up. It's a particularly high-spec car, over 400,000 Rand worth of factory extras. The sound system alone, this Burmester high-end, was 120,000 Rand optional extra when new in 2015. So in today's money, it's even more. The entire brand of Mercedes-Benz rotates around the S-Class model. S-Class stands for Sonderklasse. Sonderklasse means special class. All the other models, they're all kind of just offspurts of this centerpiece of the identity of Mercedes-Benz from its early origins. The S-Class, first S-Class badge car was introduced in the 1970s, late 70s, early 80s. I can't be too sure, but it's a W126, and the W126 was once again the halo car, the car that everybody aspired to, and it was used by presidents and celebrities and dictators and infamously the mob. As the Mercedes S-Class continues to develop and introduce more and more technology, of which maybe some of it is not really being as well received as before, I feel like, we need to look back a little bit to this car's origin and the origin of the reputation that the S-Class has cemented itself as in the industry. And for me personally, that S-Class is the W140. Following the success of its predecessor, the W126, the much more advanced W140 immediately became the cortege of choice for politicians, leaders of small African countries. Princess Diana, RIP, died in one of them in the tunnel with her boyfriend Dodi Al-Fayed, and synonymously, the mafia. I remember as a young kid growing up in the newly reformed post-perestroika Moscow, the Mercedes-Benz started to appear on the streets. It was one of the first brands, foreign car brands, that entered and opened a dealership in Moscow. The first was actually Volvo, but Mercedes, with the arrival of the S-Class in Moscow, immediately became a status symbol and a figure of authority. It was known as the 600, a name that would continue to instill fear in regular Muscovites. As soon as a 600 would arrive on the scene, it means that the boss is here and everyone needs to stand at attention or scramble. As a young impressionable kid, I remember the lure that these cars had, the presence that they commanded whenever I would see them on the streets. And I remember wanting to be around them and be one of the guys that was being transported or driving one of them. Guys would usually have a company of their friends with, normally dressed in black leather coats, sometimes hanging concealed weapons from underneath those coats.
Back in 2019, when I had maybe 6 or 7 cars in stock, we were still at the original and first premises of the Mother City Car Company, which was behind the police station in Coburg Road in Milnerton. It was a little 100 square meter unit. It could accommodate inside, super closely parked, 6 cars maybe, of which 3 would have to be Mini Coopers. That's a significant part for later. And I was looking for something that could stimulate me when I wasn't particularly busy with my huge 5 to 7 car inventory in terms of sales. And I was driving stock cars all the time, and I thought, you know what would be cool? I love Mercedes. At that point in time, I've owned 2 W123s, which I really loved, and they were cool little sort of starter classics. And the one I actually drove to Agulhas and back with a broken head gasket, a blown head gasket, and still made it back to Cape Town, which is an incredible testament to the durability and build quality of Mercedes in yesteryears. But in 2019, this car popped up on my radar. It wasn't quite in the same condition as it is now, but this took a lot of effort from me and many years of sort of tedious love-hate kind of to and fro relationship. That's what happens when you buy a project car. I paid 45,000 Rand for the car. It was running and driving, barely. It was kind of one of those 1 foot in the scrapyard kind of cars. I bought it from this swimming pool builder in Somerset West. It was like hilarious. It had Harley Davidson stickers stuck on like parts where it had damage and things like that. It was a different color, gray, dark gray top and a lighter gray on the lower side of the car, which was the sort of early cars from 91 to 94 all came out like that. And then 95 was the facelift, where they changed the bumpers from frowny bumpers to smiley bumpers and modernized the car a little bit, but still retained the two-tone scheme. Only in 96 to end of production in 99 did they color code the entire car. So I always set out to make it look more as a late model car, and because it already had the newer bumpers, so it was like a half facelift kind of car. Because it already had the new bumpers, I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to color code the light gray parts on the lower part of the car to the dark gray of the car, of the upper body of the car. By the time the panel beater had looked through it, I think he quoted me on respraying all of maybe 3 panels that didn't require paintwork. I said, come on man, let's just do the whole thing then. And let's do it in paint code 040 black, which was Mercedes flat black. It's the proper OEM factory code for this color. After doing that, it started throwing a bunch of other issues at me. Once brake failure, that was an exciting one. Luckily I wasn't going so fast, but even at 80 k's an hour, you know, kind of putting the brake and not feeling any resistance there, a little bit gnarly. But I managed to stop it like by really squeezing in, and then also applying gently the left hand foot brake that Mercedes used to have in those years, and for quite a long time after that. It's only the more modern cars that have the full electric brake. It managed to stop the car, but yeah, quite a hair-raising moment. Various issues over the years, but it didn't stop me from continuing. I think the first 2 years was like that. I would drive it for a week, maybe 2, and then it would break in some fashion again, and I would have to take it into the mechanic or to the workshop or to wherever. And only after those 2 years, and I think in the first 2 years I must have spent about 200,000 Rand on the car. That included the paint job, that included the rims, which these monoblock Aero 2s were unobtainium in South Africa. I tried everywhere. I eventually started to go worldwide, start looking at eBay, start looking somewhere in Russia or Latvia or wherever where I could find a set. It had to be the monoblock Aero 2, nice squared off wheel to go with the whole squared off big monolith body of the car. A client of mine who was a big Mercedes collector in Cape Town, I was chatting to him about another topic, I think about a car that he bought from me not too long ago, and I mentioned to him, do you know where I can find these wheels? And he's like, oh, let me check, maybe I have in storage somewhere. I was like, this guy, you won't have it in storage, you can't find these wheels, they don't exist. They just exist on pictures, which just taunts me, it makes me upset because I can't get them. And a few days later, he sends me a few WhatsApp pictures, and I went, that's the ones, those are the rims. So I was like, shit, I'm on my way. I think my enthusiasm got the better of me, so he knew by the time I arrived that he could name any ridiculous price in the world and I'd be willing to pay it. I actually remember the way he did it. He asked me to write my offer on a piece of paper, and he would then write his offer on the piece of paper, and if my offer was lower than his, then he would give it, if my offer was higher than his, then he would still give it to me for his price. Naturally, my offer was like less than half than what he wanted for the car, and when I asked him, oh, come on, can you do any better? He said, you know I can't, and you know there's no need for me to. I said, okay, please take my money and I'll have these wheels. So those were put on. That then led to a massive issue which would continue with the car for quite some time and develop into what I would call the death wobble. The car's suspension was not designed for the oversized 19-inch wheel, and occasionally the front suspension at speed sort of around 80-90 kilometers an hour would start to vibrate and shake, and it would start causing the entire car to shake. So now this whole thing is going crazy and wanting to shake itself loose. The only solution there was to hit brakes or to push through it and accelerate hard. So even though this car has given me all the uphill and all the disappointment, every time it goes into a repair for whatever, a gearbox rebuild, which has been done, and a head gasket replacement, which has been done, on and on and on, and I don't see the car for a couple of weeks, every time I get the phone call or the message to say, Art, your Benz is ready, I get excited. So I immediately move all my plans around and I go, JJ, let's go, we're gonna go fetch my car. And I see the car and it's like I see it for the first time every time. I think maybe there is a connection there between the input from me, not just the money, but the sort of experiences and the letdowns and the breakdowns and the finding those little parts to make it exactly perfect or the way I want it. Because I've put so much of myself into the car, it's kind of become like a faithful pet, like a dog. So when you get home, when you see the dog and it's, oh, so happy to see you, it's kind of a similar experience that I have whenever I collect my car back from the repair. And then I'll continue driving it, and then I'll give it a polish, and then we'll give it a little bit of cleaning and valeting and all of that. I like to keep my hand on the car. I like to keep it looking good. There was an occurrence once on the elevated freeway coming into town. I was driving the car, and my son was sitting on the back seat on the left-hand side, and I see in my left rear view there's a yellow Ferrari coming past. It was a 458 Spider. And I go, hey, check out the car, boy, look at the car coming up on the left-hand side. And as that yellow 458 comes up next to us, there's two guys sitting in it, and they got their phones out, and they're taking photos of us driving in the black Benz. And I was like, oh, that's it. You understand, boy, what it's about. So it's not always about, a tremendously expensive car. It's about, do you take pride in it? Is it special to you? I think if it is, immediately people start to notice that. So the atmosphere around the car changes. It was end of 2019 when we leased this premises and left that little first 100 square meter little unit in the business park, and we arrived in here. It was just this one section at this point, and it seemed so huge back then. And when it was all done and the floor was polished and the walls were painted, it was this Benz that was the first car to be pulled into the shop, and we parked it in that corner over there. It was like almost a good luck charm, like letting the black cat into your new place so that he can, get the ghouls out. And it was a big change for us then. 2019 was a big year, and immediately 2020 was COVID, right? So here I am. I've just taken this big leap to a much more expensive rental for the Mother City Car Company, and I'm hoping to experience growth, and then the world comes to a grinding halt. A little bit concerning at first, but after a couple of months, I realized that this is playing right into my hands. Because back in 2012, when I first started this business, and I'll come back to that just now exactly with what kind of capital I had and how it worked. But back when I started in 2012, it was always an online platform, by appointment only, and therefore I had an advantage on how to interact with potential buyers online, or via the phone, or on email, or sending WhatsApp videos of the car. And I think because the industry had still not really gotten to that stage at that point, it was still, people on the main road, dealerships waiting for walk-in business, and all of a sudden, nobody can walk around. Those places started to close, and mine started to flourish. So it all kind of started to play into the greater good for the Mother City Car Company. And over the last 5 years, we've grown exponentially. And I think over the last year and a half, we've experienced the biggest amount of growth that we've ever had in a sort of annual, if we counted a year at a time. So, but back then, the initial startup of Mother City Car Company was edged on by a few people, some colleagues at the dealership I used to work at. I used to work for a very shrewd businessman. His name is Marcel Angel. I was terrified of him. He was always quite a intimidating character. But 3.5 years I worked with Marcel from 2009 and until 2012, which is when I was speaking to my then father-in-law, and he was asking me, how I'm doing at work and how's business, and I hear you're doing quite well and you're selling lots of cars, and I'm like 24 or 25, and I'm like, yeah, man, I sold, what's the most cars you've sold? He asks me. No, in fact, he asked me, what's the most money you've made in a single month selling cars? And I said, I made 55,000 Rand the other month. I'm like a king. He's like, how many cars did you sell to make that kind of commission? And I said, I sold 23 cars that month. And he goes, oh, well done. That's a good effort. And tell me, if you were to make 55,000 Rand selling your own cars, your own stock, how many cars would you need to sell? And that's kind of the penny drop moment. I said, 2, maybe 3. And he said, okay. Do you want, I'll float you some cash as an investor. And he gave me 200 grand. 200,000 Rand on a 50% profit share. He was extremely shrewd, but it was still better than what I was getting paid working at the dealership at Auto House Angel. So I took it on. And a couple of months, I kind of kept it as a secret. I would still go to work to Auto House Angel. And we had this manager there. He was such a dingbat, gosh. Louis the Nye, that's what we used to call him. And, he was a little bit dense, so it took him about 3 months to actually catch on that I would have a second cell phone, and every time the second cell phone would ring, I'd run into the workshop in the back, and I'd go and I'd answer the phone, and I'd go, no, city car company today. That was the 2 first cars I ever bought. Stock Unit 1, Stock Unit 2. And it was a black Mini Cooper and a silver Mini Cooper. One was manual, one was auto. And that was the start. It was May 2012. That's it. So thanks for listening to my story about my black Mercedes, which I love and adore. And thank you for watching this YouTube channel. It's something fun for us. We're enjoying it, for now at least. As long as it continues to bring me some kind of joy and doesn't irritate me, like today, it's fucking hot.
Windows down, no AC.
Not easy as well. We've dedicated a whole day to doing a video. But we appreciate the likes, we appreciate the subscribes. And as you saw maybe in one of the previous episodes, if you don't subscribe, you see what happens then, so rather subscribe. And we'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching this one. Okay, that's enough of this. I need to go look for an aircon evaporator for W140. Do you know where to look?